Welcome in to a 2-round mock draft from a guy you may have never heard of before. But hey, this is a draft channel, NFL Draft 24/7. Got a ton of draft profiles out there. Got a ton of draft content out there, but doing a ton of 7-round mock drafts. And I realized, I haven't done a mock draft that was like legitimately me telling you the guys that I think will go, where they're going to go, and kind of infusing some of my takes along the way. And that's what I'm going to do here. And instead of just doing 1 round, why not do 2 rounds? And this idea is brought to you by an old-fashioned and a beer. And I'll be drinking both of them. This is a late night drunk 2-round mock. I'm not drunk yet. I will be by the end of this video. Here we go, boys and girls. If you want to play a good drinking game, take a shot every time I say or ultimately. Those are my 2 bugaboos. I do it way too much. I'm trying to be better, but ultimately, I guess I just can't help myself. So let's go. First pick, Tennessee Titans. We're not going to talk about this. Cam Ward is going to be the first pick in the draft. He is the first pick in the draft. The draft starts at 2 with the Browns. He's the first pick in the draft. He's the best player in the draft. Real quick on Cam Ward, he would be probably my number 4 quarterback last year. Now, assuming he had the season he had in 2024, obviously if you went back to last year and Cam Ward came out just out of Washington, that would be a different conversation. But I do believe he is a really good quarterback. I think he is far and away the best quarterback in this class. And everyone, we kind of caught up to this. The NFL, there's nobody in the NFL that believes that Shedeur Sanders is the better quarterback. Even though Shedeur Sanders probably is the number 2 quarterback, we're going to have to get into that conversation pretty quickly because Browns and Giants both need a quarterback. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 5 pick in this draft class. I just don't. So to me, I look at the Browns, I look at the Giants, I understand the situation, I understand the team needs. One of these teams, first of all, is going to get Kirk Cousins. That's going to happen. The Atlanta Falcons didn't pay Kirk Cousins $10 million to not trade him. They're going to get an asset for Kirk Cousins. But everybody, the Giants are playing chicken, trying to see if they can possibly get Rodgers, and I think the Browns might just be more comfortable waiting a year. I think they might just be, they traded for Kenny Pickett. Obviously, maybe I'm wrong. I could absolutely be wrong, but I'm going to have the Browns ultimately take Travis Hunter, as he is my best non-quarterback in this class. There was a while where I thought the Titans really had a good chance to take Travis Hunter. I really just believe in him. I don't have to tell you how good Travis Hunter is. I don't care what side of the ball he plays on. I really don't. Is he a corner? Is he a wide receiver? He is the best corner in this class if you grade him out as a corner, and he's the best wide receiver in this class if you grade him out as a wide receiver. And if you tell me he absolutely can't play both at the NFL level, I'm sorry. My brain wants to agree with you. I want to tell you we've never seen it. It can't happen. And if it could happen, it wouldn't be a 185-pound dude who's, got all the athleticism in the world, hand-eye, all that. But, he's not the biggest guy in the world. How could he possibly hold up? But I'm done doubting him. Wherever he plays, it doesn't matter. We're going to take that. That leaves the Giants with the best possible player on the board is Abdul Carter. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. I already mentioned the Shedeur Sanders conversation. I don't believe it. Now, if they were going to go tackle, it would be this kid out of Missouri, Mimbo. I could absolutely see it. I just think the Giants would not pass up on Abdul Carter. I'm kind of just convinced there's not that many blue chip guys in this class. There's just not. And this class is going to get wild here soon. We're going to break that down in a minute. But I just have a hard time thinking they're going to pass up on the best edge rusher in this class. And, one of the best players that would come out of any class. Really, he's got some legit talent. I just don't know how you pass him up. Let's just take the best player available. Don't take the quarter. If he's not a top 10 quarterback, don't make him a top 10 quarterback. It's happened before. It almost never works out. I know one team drafted Daniel Jones way too early, and that was a huge mess. That same team paid him too. It was wild, crazy. I would hope the Giants wouldn't do that. I don't know about you guys. I love an old fashioned. But I love a little old-fashioned beer combo. You give me a light beer and an old-fashioned, beautiful. Back to the show. Back to the draft. Patriots, to me, have to go offensive line. I I mean, we can talk about other positions later. This offensive line needs help. I know, I guess they're technically in year 2 of the rebuild, but we have Rabels in there. He's going to have time. Just get his guy. To me, the best tackle on the board is Membo. We just got to go tackle here, and we're doing 2 rounds, so I'm gonna kind of speed run through some of these picks. The Jaguars are really, really interesting because I don't know exactly where they would go, and I don't know exactly what they would want to do. Do you want to help out the offense? Do we want to help out the offense and just add a piece to add a weapon? And I'll tell you right now, if we're adding a weapon, there's not – oh, didn't mean to double-click. My bad. There's not a wide receiver that I'm taking in the top 10. I know Tet McMillan is a guy who a lot of people like, and a lot of people think he's not a top 10 pick for me. He's not a top 15 pick for me. I like him a lot. You can check out my draft profile on him. I'm a big fan. I'm not shitting on him at all. He's probably going to be the next wide receiver drafted for me. I just can't take him top. Like, he's just not. That's not who he is. He's not a top 5 wide receiver. I'm always going to differentiate that at some level. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Obviously, we could go defense. Mason Graham would be a big conversation for me. We could go corner. I don't know that. I mean, I wouldn't hate that. I still am not. I'm dying on the Will Johnson hill apparently, but I still believe Will Johnson is going to be the first corner not named Travis Hunter off the board. Jahad Brown is a great player. Like him a lot, and Will Johnson has the injury, which is probably going to make him fall ultimately. I haven't died on that hill yet, or I'm dying on that hill. I'm officially dead on that hill. Where else would you go for the Jaguars? To me, and I kind of led up to this. To me, you want to add a weapon for you. We got an offensive coordinator that came in. That whole situation was kind of weird, but he's taking over this offense that has your quarterback in place. You have your number 1 wide receiver in place. There's a lot to like about this team. I know it's not a great roster. I know it needs help. We could absolutely argue offensive line. I could make an argument for a lot of these picks. The Jaguars are weird. I could make an argument for 5-6 names and feel pretty okay with it and go through the rest of this mock not questioning it at all. I'm going to go with one that I haven't seen a ton. Tyler Warren is, to me, he's the best tight end in this class by far. To me, he's a top 5 player in this class. If you take away positional ranking, he's not in the same class as Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, but he's in that next tier, or I guess Ashton Genty, but the running back value thing is just a real thing. He's in that next tier, and he might be at the top of that next tier depending on how you look at it. I just love him. I think he's a great player. I think he's an all-around great football player. He would add so many different elements to that team. This just makes too much sense to me. It just does. It makes too much sense to me. We're going to go with it for the Jags, and then we bring ourselves to Oakland. And I know it's not Oakland, but I haven't let that go. So I'm going to just keep saying Oakland Raiders, and I'll just let people shit on me in the comments for it. It's fine. A lot of needs here. We definitely want to help out the wide receiver situation. I already mentioned it, and I'm not letting go of this. There's not a wide receiver you take in the top 10. If you were going to trade, I'm not doing trades in this mock just because that's just too much, especially when I've been drinking. It gets weird. I'm gonna sit here and tell you that Ashton Genty's a real conversation. You brought in Geno, you got Carroll running this offense. They're gonna play this. They're gonna play football through the run game. All right, Geno Smith is a great quarterback. He can do a lot of things. I like the moves that they made. I don't think they're that far away. They hit on Brock Bowers. They hit on Jackson Powers Johnson in the second round. They're going in the right direction. I really like where the Raiders are at and where they're going. I'm going to add the difference maker. I'm going to add the guy. I just believe this. I think this is going to happen. I think everything that they did in free agency leads us to this spot. And guess what? They didn't do shit at the running back position. They haven't addressed it. Not really. So they're going to draft a running back either in the first round or the second round. And to me, Carroll is he's gonna fall in love with Ashton Genty. He's gonna build the entire offense around Ashton Genty. Let's go Ashton Genty in the first, and I'm gonna really look at wide receiver in the second. And it's just gonna be a fun class to talk about. And also, just if we agree entirely with the team needs, and I'm not sitting here telling you I do, but if we do, I think we can find a corner in the second. I think we can find interior defensive line in the second. I think Ashton Genty makes too much sense. And Mason Graham's a real good, really interesting conversation. I like him a lot. He's not going to be on the board much longer, but yeah, got to go Ashton Genty here. Jets are in a weird spot. This is where, okay, are we gonna go quarterback? They signed Justin Fields, obviously, and I made the case that Shedeur Sanders is not a top 10 pick for me. I still believe that. I'm not going to go quarterback here. I think they can wait. Again, I think Justin Fields is a fine stopgap guy for 2 years. I think Aaron Glenn coming back, coming from the Lions that really made it work. He went through that whole rebuild with the Lions without addressing the quarterback, taking a guy who was an afterthought for the Rams and making him a superstar. So I think there's belief in that. Obviously, the story of Justin Fields tearing up the Lions defense is real. Aaron Glenn obviously saw that. I think he's going to believe in that. I also just believe the Jets did this. They did it early in free agency because I think they knew at 7 overall they weren't going to be in a situation where they were going to get the quarterback they wanted. Now, maybe that was pretty early on in the process. How much they believed in Shedeur at that point, who knows? Again, I'm sticking with my guns that I just don't believe he's a first-round guy. I don't. Offensive line, Will Campbell would make a lot of sense. We could go defense here with Mason Graham. We drafted a tackle last year in the first round, so would they do it again with Will Campbell, who he's either a tackle or guard, one or the other? I do think. I think both positions are really important. Both positions are a need for this team. I would venture to believe that there's a bigger drop off at the offensive line spot in the second round than there is the interior D line. I think we're going to have some names on the interior defensive line if those are the two spots you wanted to go. That I think there's going to be more names in the second round there than there are with offensive line. So I'm going to give the Jets the tackle. Let's build through the trenches. Let's do this rebuild the right way. Again, Eric Glenn saw exactly how to do it with the Lions. Lions had more picks. They were able to trade Stafford and kind of build that way, and that's not a luxury that it looks like the Jets are going to have. But building through the trenches, building up your offensive line, I think that's a really good first step. A defensive coach obviously would want his defensive player, but I think from a team building perspective, this just makes too much sense. So we're going to go offensive lineman there. And with the Panthers, the 8th pick, this is a dream spot for them. I don't think it could play out any better for the Panthers. Mason Graham is there. They signed Milton Williams. They signed him, and then just the Patriots came in with more money. Then he went to the Patriots instead. Milton Williams was one of the top free agents. The Panthers tried to pay him. They've already paid J.C. Horn. Are you drafting a cornerback 2 in the top 10? I would hope not. I don't think from a team building perspective that's the way to go, and I think this team knows they need help on defense. Obviously, the quarterback situation is what it is. He got a lot better this past year. Bryce Young building. Wide receiver is going to be a real conversation in the second round. Edge is going to be a real conversation in the second round. Cornerback 2 is going to be a real conversation in the second round. But we help out this defensive line immediately. We make it a lot harder to run the ball against the Panthers, and not to mention we still got Bobby Brown there. I mean that's a combo right there in the interior. Saints are a weird team, man. A weird team. Like what the. I don't know. I don't understand what the Saints are doing. I don't get it. From a team building perspective, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why are you hitting your head against the wall trying to extend and expand this team that's like won't let the dream die? Like we got Derek Carr at quarterback. We're overpaying all of these, not overpaying. You have a lot of dead money being paid to guys that have aged out of their prime. And we're not just cutting loose, taking the L this year and trying to actually rebuild. Like, I don't understand. That's how teams are supposed to be ran. That's how most NFL teams run this shit. They're bad for a year, they bottom out, and then they rebuild. When are we going to have the bottom out year? Especially with a team that has all these contract issues. I don't know. They do contract gymnastics every year. They kick the can down the road every year, and ultimately I think it just hurts the value of their football team. They need corner. Jahad Brown is here. Will Johnson is here. I'm going to say I think Will Johnson's better. I just believe him. I know the injury. I get it. There's a lot of people that are saying Jahad Brown is definitely going to go first. If we look at the corners overall, huge drop off. Huge drop off for me after Jahad Brown goes. Jahad Brown isn't going to last on this board much longer for me. I'm not going to die. I'm going to die on this Will Johnson hill. I am. He's a top 10 pick for me. He's going to the Saints in this mock. I love him. All right. Bears. Good-ish situation. I mean, there's definitely some needs here. I could see them going a lot of different places on the defensive line. I think if Ashton Genty was there, they would take him. I'd be shocked if they wouldn't. Where do we go here? Because this is where we ran out of names. Really, at 8 for the Panthers is really where it's like, okay, after Mason Graham's gone, after these names are gone, we get into a range here where the next 10 to 15 picks in real life, when this draft happens, it's going to be all over the place. It's just like the mocks are going to be crazy. Like, I'm going to get a little weird with this because I could see teams valuing down the board. Colson Loveland, probably going to be a late first, early second for me in my mock. He could go 10. He could go, like, I'm not saying 10 specifically. He could go top 15. Like, I'm picking a name out of a hat. I'm just saying randomly. But I do think a lot of these names down the board are going to be in the conversation. I think it's going to get weird. It's going to get weird. And PFF's rankings, I don't love them. I wish they would update it to, kind of the more standard thought process now. But this is where we're at with this. And I think we can go a lot of different ways, specifically with the Bears. Where do we want to go? The D-line's definitely a conversation. We have Montez Sweat. We signed Grady Jarrett. I think we look at this and it's like, man, yeah, there's just so many names. And Mike Green is like the classic speed edge rusher out of Marshall. I said when I did his mock draft that I think top 15 is a little high for me. But again, I could honestly tell you it's going to get weird, and we know it's going to get weird. Kenneth Grant would be a thought for me. I mean, just another big, two-gapping type of guy could fill in that interior. I think from a positional value standpoint, they could probably stand to go Mike Green. Ezeruku for me is going to go a lot later. I just don't value him here. I'm in the minority on that. I know that. I see him as a second round edge guy. That's how I view him. And then you get into some of the names down the list, and we can kind of talk about that. But I don't think they're top 10 guys. And again, this is a weird year where it's like top 10 doesn't mean a whole lot to me. And again, I mentioned it already, but there's a lot of guys that could go top 10 that, I probably wouldn't think standard-wise are absolutely the top 10 guys. Safety's a need. The other spot that we could go is safety, where Emiranu is a guy that I probably would be my first safety off the board, just tested out of this world. Malachi Starks is probably the bigger name. People know about him. I like him. Probably going to be a first-round pick. I don't like him. He's not my favorite safety in this class, just for me. But he's a good player for sure. I'm going to go Mike Green. I think I got to go Mike Green. I think he's the best defensive lineman on the board probably, and I think the Bears need to have a element there. You have Josh Sweat. If you can add Mike Green to the other side, I mean, that's real firepower. That's real disruption and, ability to kick ass and get to the quarterback. Mike Green's not a complete player. I get that. You're going to kind of have to work around his limitations in the run game, but ultimately I think we just have to go with that. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, offensive line's a huge need. Defensive line's a huge need. Corner's a fairly big need. Definitely outside corner for sure. Jahad Brown's still on the board. I think Jahad Brown is probably just the best player on the board on this board specifically. And again, if we looked at interior, I'm not going to take an interior in this spot, and they're going to be able to find a guy in the second round that can kind of fill that need. I think Barron falls here. You just have to take them. I don't see how you wouldn't. Getting to the Cowboys, this is such a weird spot for them because where do they go? And what they need is so sparse, and I can make arguments for so many different spots. Cowboys usually, I feel like the Cowboys draft pretty okay. Like as much shit as Jerry Jones gets, he drafts. I mean, you go back and look at his drafts. He doesn't have a ton of misses there. I mean, you can say Guyton. I mean, they maybe reached a little bit on a tackle last year, but they needed a tackle. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You needed a tackle. You got to go get a tackle. Kevin Banks Jr., I don't hate this if you just wanted to take a guy who Probably could play inside, outside. They could use a wide receiver to pair with a CeeDee Lamb, obviously. It's early for me for wide receiver. It just is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you value these. I mean, like, I like McMillan. I like him a lot. This is still early for me. I don't value him in the same way that I value a lot of these other names. And I get it. We're kind of getting to a spot where it's going to get weird, and there's going to be teams that are going to have to reach. I want the Cowboys to go get an offensive lineman, and I like Kevin Binks Jr. and he's a Texas kid, and that's always gonna mean something for me a little bit. And I just feel like a plug and play guard, like you're helping out your offensive line immediately. The Cowboys can find a running back. They're going to be fine. Wide receiver's a need, but it's not the end of the world. Tolbert's fine. We have to add a name of wide receiver for sure, and we have a second round to do that. I'm going to take the guard. I think he has tackle ability, but I think he can move in. I think he can be a starting guard from day one. So let's draft a starter for the Cowboys. Maybe a little early. I get it, but I already mentioned I think this is going to be all over the place. The Dolphins desperately need interior offensive line. Kenneth Grant is by far the best interior offensive line guy on the board right now. There it is. Derek Harmon, close second. I have them fairly evenly graded, but they're different guys. Kenneth Grant's definitely more of the two-gapping, giant human. I have draft profiles out for both of them. Came out this week, so you can check that out if you want more of a deep dive on either of these guys. From me, Derek Harmon is just gonna be a menace, just an absolute menace. I'm going to take Kenneth Grant just because I really believe he can do it all. He has plenty of athleticism. He's going to get to the quarterback 4 or 5 times a year, but I mean he's going to make your run defense better immediately. Just immediately. So we're going to take that. We're going to get on to the Colts, another team that have various needs in various different spots. I don't know. This is a tough one for me. Where I really like, Jalen Walker to me is a top 10 talent-ish. It's just tough because it's like, do you play him at linebacker? He has limitations there. Do you play him at edge? It's a question mark there. But he could have like that Micah Parsons level, turnaround of like, oh shit, no, he's just an incredible edge rusher. I think he's absolutely in the conversation for me. I think the true middle linebacker, Jod Campbell, who I really like, I'm a big fan of his, is a conversation. You can make an argument for a lot of different spots. Really, I don't think we need to go wide receiver. You could go tight end for sure. If you go tight end, you're going to go Colson Loveland. I guess this is really like the prime example of, he could go here. Or he could go in the late 20s, or he could go in the early 30s. Who knows? And I think I could kind of say that about almost every single name on this board right now. I'm gonna go with my gut, and I just think Jalen Walker is a guy who is gonna go in the top 15. I think he's gonna be one of the first defensive players off the board in this range. I love him. I think he's one of those dudes. He's a dog. We're gonna draft a dog for the Colts, and we're gonna move on to the Falcons. Trying to rapid fire this because we got 2 rounds. Hopefully, I haven't said anything super stupid yet. The possibility of that goes up with every sip. All right, here, Falcons. Weird team, man. We have to go front 7 with the Falcons. I know wide receivers their number one name. Like Drake London is fine. Drake London, actually, a great example. Drake London, for me, wasn't a top 10 guy. I didn't think he should have been the first wide receiver off the board. I didn't think he would go in the range that he went. I view McMillan the same way. So, I could be wrong. I could just be wrong. That's fine. I'm wrong sometimes. It is what it is. But I got to do this mock a little bit based on the way I actually think things are going to go. This is how I think the draft could go. I could be wrong. I'm going to be wrong, obviously, but I just gotta value it the way I value it and just run it that way. We're going to look at front 7, and I don't know that it matters too much where we go in the front 7. This is interesting. And this is only interesting because I'm looking at this, and I'm also looking at the next 2 picks, 3 picks. All these teams could easily go defensive line. All these teams kind of have similar needs as far as like where their deficiencies were last year. So it'll be interesting to see how these teams value these spots. The Falcons also need a center. We're going to be able to find a center in the second round. It would not surprise to me at all. Like the Colts, as far as like trade possibilities, this is the first spot where it's like, if the Colts wanted to trade down and you wanted to grab a team that like the Packers that need edge, that would be the trade. I'm just thinking like, and I'm not going to do a trade here, but I'm just kind of like breaking it down of like teams that are targeting. I mean, let's just do it like this. Teams that are targeting any name on your screen right now. And I don't know who it would be. I think it's going to be different, but if there's a team that has one of these guys significantly higher than the rest of them, that's your trade. And it would be a team anywhere in this range of like the early 20s to late teens, and maybe it's not even that far. Maybe it's just the Seahawks could move up and just go get their guy. But that to me is the spot. I think we're going to kind of have rapid fire defensive linemen. It's the strength of this draft. It's a really good part of this draft. If the Falcons were going to go wide receiver, I think it would be probably Matthew Golden for me. That's just how I would view it, because I would think he would complement a Drake London better. I don't know. To me, that front seven was bad, and we lost Grady Jarrett. And I know Grady Jarrett wasn't like end all be all by any means, but I don't know. I have a problem with that. I'm gonna go D line. I'm definitely gonna go D line for this spot, and I'm gonna go Nick Scorton. We're gonna get a bigger edge. We're gonna get a bigger end. I mean, a true defensive end. I think he can do a lot of different things. I'm a big fan of his size, his explosiveness, his combination. Shamir Stewart has the higher upside. He's got the higher floor. It's just raw, and to me, I want a guy who, well, fuck, I don't know. Yeah, I think the Falcons. Let's have the Falcons swing for the fences and Shamir Stewart. Shamir Stewart probably would be the guy a team would trade up for. Just has all the physical abilities, all the tools, but he's just not ready yet. Like, he's not going to be a big impact year one. But I think it'd be tough to pass up on the high end upside there. And then we have the Falcons here. They could use interior offensive line. This is kind of where we get into the range of like, okay, Zabel is going to be a conversation here. Zabel probably might be the pick here, really. But they could use D-line. They could use corner. Another team, absolutely. They were in the conversation for Milton, like I talked about with the Panthers. They needed to add defensive interior, they could use edge really wherever they wanted to go in the D-line. In the front seven, really. I mean, do they want to take another linebacker in the first round? I don't know. I mean, I like him more. I like him more than the guy they got a couple years ago. I think this is where I'm going to go Nick Sorden. I'm gonna take the D lineman, bigger defensive lineman. I think he's going to fit that scheme a little bit better. Bengals here, they absolutely need edge. They need to rush the passer. They did a lot of things. They re-signed. They got both of their wide receivers extended, so their offense is set. Their defense was wet paper last year, so they absolutely need to go that route with it. I think if they didn't, they would definitely go O-line, and they definitely need a guard. We can find interior. I think we're just gonna have to add the best edge available. And for me, James Pierce Jr. is, again, I have him ranked as the next edge on my board, so I'm gonna have to take James Pierce Jr. there. We run into the Seahawks, which they're in a great spot. This fell really close to how you would hope it falls for them. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. Interior defensive line is a real conversation. Defensive end is a real conversation. Where you want to go with this? Derek Harmon, I think, can do a lot of different things. I think he fits that Mike McDonald defense really, really well. I like this combination. I really like where they could go with this. They do need interior. I'm either Derek Harmon or I'm going to go a little bit down off the beaten path, and I'm going to go interior offensive line. I'm going to go get Zabel out of North Dakota State, who has a real shot to go this early. This is a little early. Tyler Booker probably going to be a first-round pick. Josh Connerly probably going to be a first-round pick. All these guys. Josh Simmons is going to be in the conversation. It's tough. It's tough to kind of break this down, and I know I gave a lot of defensive players. I took a lot of defensive players off the board in spots where they could all of these guys, all these teams could have gone offensive line, but like every team could probably go offensive line at some point. I like the fit too much. I think Derek Harmon is a dream, an absolute dream for the Seahawks. They drafted a defensive lineman last year. I get it. I love him too. I'm a big fan of his. I'm gonna go Harmon, and I'm gonna go with that. I did a 7-round mock for them, and that was like the mistake that I felt like I made was I ended up taking a tackle for them instead of the defensive lineman, and I didn't like that mock, and I was kind of mad at myself after I put it together, and I got plenty of comments telling me how bad it was. So hey, let me know in the comments what you think. I don't see Jahad Campbell falling this far. He's my best player on the board right now. Jahad Campbell's my best player on the board. I'm gonna go Jahad Campbell here, linebacker out of Alabama. He's too damn good, and they could go a lot of different spots in the defense. That offense is set. The offensive line is really good. I mean, what do you really need on the offensive side of the ball? This is going to be a great situation for them just because the way the draft is probably going to unfold. I think they're going to have really good value at every spot in this draft. But let's go ahead and get the premier linebacker. We can figure it out, especially DB. We can grab a corner and safety later. I know we're letting the safeties fall a little bit. That's how I view – I mean, look, any one of those teams could have taken my top safety off the board. Any one of those teams could have taken – I mean, this could go a lot of different ways. It really could. But I kind of had to go with the way I value this draft. So we're going a little weird. We're going to go with it. Broncos, to me, this is where you start thinking about the running back. Omarion Hampton, probably going to be the next running back off the board. I'm going to tell you guys right now, the third running back off the board, probably going to be Caleb Johnson for me. That's my third running back in this class. Then Quinshon Judkins. It's a little different than the way this is broken down, but it's close enough. I just think the drop-off, right? We have the 51st pick. The running back that we can grab with the 51st pick is going to be really, really impactful player. Could be Quinshon Judkins, could be Dylan Sampson, could be Caleb Johnson, whoever it is, doesn't matter. The wide receiver that we get in that range still be good. But Ted McMillan, you paired Ted McMillan with Sutton, and I know there's similar skill sets. I get that. I wouldn't hate going back-to-back on wide receiver. I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. But McMillan would be, I think he'd be my guy. Like, if it wasn't him, I would go Matthew Golden. I think he's going to be a first-round pick at the end of the day. But, yeah, I'm going to go McMillan. And this is really truly the range I see him in. This is truly where I think if he goes earlier, it's early for him. He could do it. It could happen. You could just take the wide receiver. But this is a weird wide receiver class where I think like a lot of guys are going to go from like 20 to 60. And then it's going to kind of fall off to where there's just not a lot of names like in the third round. There'll be a handful of names that we like, but I think that's kind of where the meat of the good wide receivers are going to go. So we're going to kick it off here for the Broncos. And then we have the Steelers here. Interesting. So it's interesting the way this goes, and I think this is very real. When's the last time we mentioned quarterback? Like, when's the last time we really talked about quarterback? I guess Saints really would be the last time you would think about it. I probably didn't talk about it too much with the Saints. Maybe they could do it. Jets, Saints, and then if neither of those teams go for it, and if it goes the way I said I think it can go, the Steelers are obviously the next team. Now, I think they're getting Aaron Rodgers. I believe they're getting Aaron Rodgers. I'm approaching this pick as if they have Aaron Rodgers on the roster. So if they have Aaron Rodgers on the roster, Shedeur Sanders would be the guy backing up Aaron Rodgers. He would get to sit for a year. There's a ton of value there. I'm considering that. This to me is kind of this should be the ceiling. But it's not. I know the ceiling's second overall for Shedeur Sanders. This should be the ceiling, but I know it's not, and I get that. That's just the reality of the situation. This is a weird spot. Weird spot to draft a quarterback. Usually if you're a first round quarterback, you're going to go top 10. And then if you're a second round quarterback, you're either going to go back into the first round, like a Jordan Love style, sneaks in there type of guy, or you're going to fall. You're just going to fall. Weird year for quarterback. This is another spot where Omarion Hampton is a real conversation. The Steelers could absolutely do it. I think tackle is a real conversation. I think, you look at, Josh Connerly would probably be my pick at tackle if I was going to go tackle here. The interior isn't as big of a deal, so that's why I'm kind of passing on Zabel, because he's a guard. He's a guard in the NFL. Could do that. Could take the safety. I think that's what I'm ultimately going to do. I'm going to take the safety here out of South Carolina. This is my top safety on the board. I'm passing on Shedeur. I'm telling you right now, the Steelers have Aaron Rodgers in this mock. All right, that's what I'm thinking. We're projecting it. If I can project draft picks a month in advance, a month and a half in advance, whatever, really a month. I can project the Rodgers signing. I can do that. I think it's going to happen here anytime now. That's what I think is going to happen. If it happened, if Rodgers was still there, Shedeur would still be part of the conversation for sure. I'm going to go safety. I think it's just a bigger need for him. Let's address the safety position. Chargers here. Interesting spot with the Chargers. I think D-line is a real conversation. Another team, I mentioned the possibility of trade up. Chargers, another team, they could trade up, get ahead of some of those teams that are going to take defensive line. The well at defensive line is still rich. I still really believe in Walter Nolan. Mekhi Williams has a ton of talent. He's raw, very, very raw, but he has a ton of potential. Darius Alexander is a first round pick for me at the D tackle spot. I like a lot of these names. I think a lot of them can be really impactful, and really nobody on that interior that I think couldn't use an upgrade. You re-signed Khalil Mack, but he's nearing the end of his lifespan. Bud Dupree, is that your number 2? Bud Dupree? Is there anybody? Let me know in the comments if I'm missing somebody. I think that's it. And then wide receiver, and then obviously running back. But I think running back. They signed Najee Harris. I would think, just based on the team, how the team is ran, I would think that they would probably just be okay with taking a running back. And it's a weird thing, because in the first round, I think what we're going to see is, as good as Omarion Hampton is, and Genty's another level. I do think Genty ultimately goes top 10. But as good as Omarion Hampton is, who's the number 2, how big of a gap are teams really going to? And maybe he's not the number 2 on every team. Caleb Johnson's my number 2. I'm giving Omarion Hampton the credit that just seems to be where things are going. I'm trying to blend the two of, okay, these are the things that just feels like that's where the NFL views things. I follow it pretty close. I kind of have a good gauge for stuff like that. I have a couple friends, so I'm not super in touch. When you look at the subscriber count, you can guess about how involved in those deep conversations I really am. But I know enough to tell you the tier 2 of running backs, if you expand that tier, it's pretty deep. So a lot of these teams, I do think, that need running back are going to probably look at round 2, round 3 and say, no, we can make it work, especially the Chargers that they just took Najee Harris, cheap deal, it's fine. But they have Najee Harris. They have some pieces behind Najee Harris that I think they're comfortable with. They clearly like enough. They got a good bit of carries last year, and they can make it work. And I don't think this is a team that wants to have a workhorse back that gets all the carries, all right? Wide receivers, very interesting to me. Matthew Golden's still on the board here. Matthew Golden makes a lot of sense to me in this spot to the Chargers. I don't know. I mean, you have Ladd McConkey. You have Quentin Johnson, who, he's never going to live up to the first round hype. He's just not. That's not who he's going to be. But he was better this year than he was in year 1, and hopefully he can be better in year 3 than he was in year 2. Mike Williams is nothing as far as a free agent signing. That's not impacting my decision making at all. We need a wide receiver. I get it, but we also need help at D-line. So it's I don't know. It's not a complete picture yet. Can we figure it out at wide receiver? Can we figure it out wide receiver or running back? It's tough. Because I Matthew Golden, this is where he should go. This is his range. He's a first round wide receiver. He should go right here. He's my number. If you take Travis Hunter out, which is always a weird thing to talk about, he's my number 2 wide receiver behind Tat. Walter Nolan, I have a higher. I have a higher grade on Walter Nolan. There's some off the field concerns with him that I try not to overthink. I could absolutely see him falling late. He could just be off a lot of teams' boards. So I have no qualms about saying that this might just not be rooted in reality. But Walter Nolan, absolutely top 20 talent. I kind of already passed him up. I could sit here and tell you he's comparable to Derek Harmon. I think, no. I mean, he's if there were no off the field concerns, he would be my next pick probably. So I'm just gonna base it on that. Really wanted to go wide receiver. Strongly considered Matthew Golden. I think this is a real conversation there. I'm not sure exactly what would happen. We look at the Green Bay Packers and another team that's okay, a lot of teams have a lot of similar needs this year. It's weird. The Malachi Starks conversation has to get loud. So we passed on him. We moved on. This is, to me, again, I think he's been over-evaluated a little bit. I don't view him as a top 15 guy. It's just not how I think he's going to be viewed. We need a wide receiver. Is there a true number 1? Is there a true number 1 right here? Matthew Golden, maybe. Trey Harris is a real thought for me as far as what he can be at the next level. Jaden Higgins would be kind of in that same kind of tier of because we need outside. We need an outside number 1, but I value Matthew Golden in this spot. I'm going to go ahead and take Matthew Golden. I think he can be in number. I think he complements a Jaden Reed pretty well. You still have Christian Watson, who's been injured a lot, but he still has, when he's on the field, he's pretty good. He's not terrible when he's on the field. He's just hasn't been on the field enough to really trust, and you can't trust him. But if Matthew Golden, Reed or Wicks or whoever you wanted to put there in the slot, and then Watson is on the outside, that's a really good starting 3 there. Not only a good starting 3, it complements each other, all right? So we're going to take that, and then we're going to take a long, long drink from our bourbon. Old fashions they just hit different. Paired so well with a light beer. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. All right, getting into it. All right, getting back into it. Vikings. Yeah, listen, drinking a little bit. Woo, feeling it. Malachi Starks is probably the top name on the board. Omarion Hampton to the Vikings. I don't know how to not do that. I did not love the re-signing of Aaron Jones. I didn't. He wasn't the same guy last year. Not at the end of the year. I mean, I don't know. I didn't love that. I know I think they traded for Jordan Mason, who, okay, cool. I mean, yeah, good number 2. It was weird to do in this draft class, but okay. Safety, Malachi Starks makes a lot of sense. I know they brought back Harrison. That's not going to last. I mean, we're going to need to replace him soon. We're going to need a safety, and it's criminal almost that he's still on the. Well, not criminal. This is about where I think he's going to go. I think I would never have ranked him 9th. Look, it's a luxury pick, but you look at the Vikings and it's okay, Turner's a good player that they drafted last year out of Alabama. If you wanted to go D-line, maybe you would value Michael Williams. I could see this team valuing Michael Williams. I could. But I don't know if they would go to the well on him twice. Again, Ezeruku, I know I've passed over him. I mentioned it at some point. I value him as a wide. I think I like Landon Jackson more than him. Maybe he's just not my cup of tea, not my guy. I don't know what it is. I'm lower on him than the consensus, so we just got to live with that. I'm going to go ahead and just go with the luxury pick. We're going to take Omarion Hampton. I think this just makes too much sense to me. Omarion Hampton's different, and he's going to be a first-round pick. I really believe that. Texans is kind of easy. We're going to go We're going to go Zabel. Because what I think is going to happen, they're going to move Titus Howard to tackle. Obviously, we moved on from the most valuable tackle the Dolphins ever drafted, ever. And they traded him. They moved on from him. I think you bring in a Zabel to play guard. Titus Howard's going to play tackle. That at least, I guess, fixes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's definitely the best move in this spot. This is the dream. If Zabel falls here, Zabel could absolutely be gone in the top 20. If Zabel falls to 25, I think that's right in his range. Wide receiver, I guess, is a need. It is a need. I get it. And there's good wide receivers on the board. I like wide receivers. Just looking at what they say the need is. PFF says the need is wide receiver. I get that, but O-line is just such a huge glaring need. We gotta go with that and just run it. And I'm gonna go with Zabel. We're gonna take another sip before we talk about the Rams here for you. I think offensive line is it's such a big need. You gotta keep Stafford upright. Josh Connerly is here, and I'm gonna take him. I think he's gonna go in the first round. He's gonna go in this range. He could go a little earlier, but we gotta grab an offensive lineman for the Rams here. And then we have the Dirty Birds themselves. This is where Malcolm Starks is going to go off the board. Obviously, you have Hamilton. He's an enforcer. He's one of the best. He was one of my favorite players to come out of that class. He's awesome. Had some injuries. I get that. Washington is their other safety. He's pretty good. I get that. I think there's just a lot of different things you could do here. I mean, really, probably corner is probably the bigger need, but this is a Ravens move. The Ravens would sit and just have a guy fall to him like a Malachi Starks, and they're gonna find a way to use him. You don't pass up on stuff like that. So I think that just makes too much sense. So we're gonna go with that. Didn't mean to click on Ezeruku there. Sorry about that. And looking at the Lions here, man. I don't know if I agree that wide receiver is their biggest need. I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, okay. I think adding some depth on the edge would be probably, and look, the Lions are a complete football team. Corner makes a lot of sense. Again, it's just too early for these guys. Maybe they would take Siobhan Reevil and just go the upside because he's got all the traits and he could just be a superstar. Maybe they would never take the tight end. Mekhi Williams makes a lot of sense to me here. Makes a lot of sense to me. Wide receiver, I get it. You have Jameson Williams. You have you have Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra is kind of your bigger slot guy who does it all type of guy. Luther Burden, I think, could fit in there, but Luther Burden's skill set is similar to Amon-Ra. So I'm not in love with that pairing. And I don't have to be in love with that pairing. We can go a different wide receiver spot. And Buka would not be the move here to me. I could see maybe a Jaden Higgins makes a lot of sense. You have Jameson Williams. Like if you just wanted to complete a bigger guy who could kind of compete on the outside or inside. Jaden Higgins did a lot of things at Iowa State. I think he's a borderline first round guy. Trey Harris, another borderline first round guy who I really like a lot. Trey Harris, I don't know. I mean, does he kind of? You already have Jameson Williams, so they're a different skill set, but they're similar. Like Trey Harris, you're drafting him for the X receiver role. That's kind of what Jameson Williams is. I don't know. I mean, they need a guy. I don't know if they need him in the first round. Like I would be fine with. There's a lot at 60. There's a lot of names that are still going to be here that I would like. That I'd be fine with if you wanted to go wide receiver. And I understand that's not a pressing need for me, but I understand that desire. There's nobody that even resembles a Mekhi Williams at the next in a couple rounds, all right? It's potential. It's raw. It's not complete by any means, but we look at edges. And I could see them being a team that just wants the high floor because Ezeruku's a high floor guy for me. He's going to be a good, solid edge in the defensive end, not edge, defensive end in the NFL. You can do it all pretty well. Yeah, I don't see the explosiveness out of Ezeruku that I think I wanted to see. Michael Williams, I think he has a pretty high potential, and in this range, I think this is where you take the potential guys that could could blow up, and you're the Lions. You have so much talent on that football team. It's insane. Can't go corner. I kind of broke it down, so I'm going to go with there. And then now we go run into Washington that has kind of a lot of needs. We could go a lot of different places with this. And I mean, look, they traded for Debo. That doesn't automatically mean they're not going to draft a wide receiver. They have 2 running backs that are fine, but that doesn't automatically mean they're not going to draft a running back. Their defensive line needs help. Would you take Loveland and let him play behind Zach Ertz for a year? Could you? I mean, you traded for the tackle, so you don't necessarily need to go tackle. I don't know. This is where the draft gets weird. This is where it's like, okay, where do we want to go? And yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of go simple. I'm gonna go easy. We're gonna go Tyler Booker. Let's help out the offensive line. Interior offensive line could use some help. Let's help them out. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills. My bad. Can't talk. New corner's a big need for me for them. Corner's a big need for me. Kyle Elam couldn't play last year. I think they absolutely, that's to me is their number one need. They could absolutely use some help on the D line. And again, we're running out of names, not expeditiously, but we're running low on names, I guess I would say. Darius Alexander's the next guy that's going to go, but Darius Alexander, I don't know if that's not the guy that I would want to complement that defensive line. That's not like a great fit to me. Not a bad fit, but not the specific name that I would want. In this range, would we reach on a corner? I don't know, maybe. And really, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't hate adding another weapon. Like, okay, so we signed the slot receiver. That's great. We drafted we drafted the kid out of Florida State last year. He's your ex. Can we add a Y? Can we add a Luther Burden, who I think can do a lot of different things? I think I'm gonna do that. I like Luther Burden. I think this is the range he goes. I'm gonna go wide receiver. We're gonna go a little bit sexy. We're gonna go a little bit, luxury pick with it, because there's definitely some more pressing needs on that team. But I think that's ultimately the right move. The Chiefs are this is a dream spot for them. Got to go offensive line. And there's one offensive lineman that I still have as a first-round pick, and that's Josh Simmons. That's easy. And then Eagles, what do you give the team that has everything? Colson Loveland. I think they're going to move on from their tight end soon. He's a great player. Again, they drafted. I'm blanking on his name. Dallas. They drafted Dallas Goedert after winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots. Now we're going to draft Colson Loveland after winning the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. The Eagles are giant killers. They killed the Patriots and they killed the Chiefs. They've also lost to the Patriots and Chiefs. The symmetry there is kind of weird, right? Like, there's a connection. Eagles are fun. They could go so many different ways with it. I could absolutely see them going wide receiver here. There's some really explosive special wide receivers in this range that I still love. Like, we're about to finish the first round. I'm about to take a break and then come back in the second round. I'm going to finish this drink and make a new one. But I'm going to tell you right now, Mbuka for me is not a first-round pick. I don't see him in that range. I thought Trey Harris could sneak in the first round. I thought Jaden Higgins could sneak in the first round. I like them a lot. There's some conversation about Kyle Williams. Again, he's way lower on this list than he's going to be in the NFL. I view him as a top 50 second round type of guy that could definitely sneak in the first round. Like, I could see this happening. It just didn't go that way for me. I think I ended up having 3 wide receivers and Travis Hunter drafted in the first round. And we could absolutely go wide receiver here. I think I'm going to end up going Colson Loveland. I think he's a first-round tight end. And again, he was my example early on in this video that he could go as early as 14 to the Colts. I believe that. And I think that's how this draft's going to go. I think, I kind of mostly went with the guys that I believe are going to go. I think a lot of these names have a really, really good chance to get drafted in the first round. I think the first round's going to be tough. If I got 20 of the top 32 names right, I'm kind of happy. So we're going to go Colson Leveland, and I'm going to take a quick break and come back. All right, round 1 in the books. We're back for round 2. We got our drink. And look, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know if this is showing up. This is more than a single as far as old fashions go. That's old fashioned number 2, but that's probably shot number 5 and 6. Like, I was making triples. All right. So if I feel a little drunk, a little loopy, I feel like my face is already red. So, yeah, gonna have fun with it. I already signed up for this, and I'm slightly drunker than I thought I'd be going in round 2. But fuck it, you know? Hey, we're going to cuss. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk a little bit of football. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Round 2, here we go. And, all right, so I'm always going to have to remind myself we took Travis Hunter with the 2nd overall pick. We did not. Did we take a quarterback? Okay, we did. We only took one quarterback in the first round. The conversation with the Steelers, just to scroll up, really, I mean, I talked about the Steelers taking Shedeur at 21. I already mentioned that I really believed in Aaron Rodgers going there. And then it wasn't a conversation for the rest of these picks. Maybe I could have thought about it with the Rams. I went for a more pressing need. Now we get to the Browns with the first pick in the 2nd round. Shedeur Sanders is here. I think realistically, if I had to tell you, I would say Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Jalen Milroe all going to get drafted in the 2nd round for my mock. That's probably how I'm going to roll with it. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because I could sit here and tell you that the Browns could just leave it alone, not take a quarterback. A lot of names on the board, a lot of guys that could be impactful early on for them. But man, I mean, do you believe in Watson? Do you believe in Kenny Pickett long term? Obviously, you don't believe in Kenny Pickett. Super Bowl winning Kenny Pickett long term, but Kenny goes to a spot where he thinks he can start, and I think that's kind of the move for the Browns. Do they take a Shedeur Sanders? I think in real life, I think in reality, if the Giants didn't take him in the first, they probably would have traded up. We didn't do trades in this mock. So we're going to go with Shedeur Sanders here. And I'm not going to bury the lead. Okay, so I think they could get Kirk Cousins. I think that's probably what's going to happen. And if they get Kirk Cousins, they have Abdul Carter. They could still draft interior. Darius Alexander will be on the board for me. Offensive line, when we get into the 2nd round, these guys are going to go. These guys are going to go earlier than we think. I like probably some of the more interior guys, like Tate Ratledge is going to go. This kid out of Arizona is going to go. If they wanted to draft a safety, Jared Wilson's going to go. Ursere would be a conversation for me. I would think about it. I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Jackson Dart, at least for me. And this is probably not consensus. This probably isn't the way other people see it. Jackson Dart and Shedeur Sanders aren't that far away from me. They're in the same they're in the same tier. They are. I view them very closely, actually, and I would not be surprised if there's a world where Jackson Dart goes before Shedeur. Now, if he does, Coach Prime is a conversation. Shedeur's last name is probably a bigger reason than I think I expect. But if that happened, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't blow my mind. There's definitely other places we could go. I'm going to take Jackson Dart. We're going to move on. Titans here, they have Cam Ward. I'm going to give him a wide receiver. I'm going to give him, I think, we could argue defensive line. We can argue a lot of different spots. Defensive line, there's a lot of different places we could go with it. Titans need help. I think pairing a young wide receiver with a young quarterback, there's some symmetry there. I like doing that. That's what's one of my favorite moves there. I will say, just if I'm being, and I didn't mean to double click there again. Sorry about that, drunk guy. Titans I don't think they have a 3rd, and it won't show me because I'm not doing the entire draft. They don't have a 3rd or a 4th, if I'm not mistaken. They should trade down. They should. Will they? I don't know. I'm gonna take the guy I just believe in. I'm going to take a guy that I think there's some symmetry here because I do believe I do believe that he has a very similar build, a very similar style to a AJ Brown. He goes to the same school. I see AJ Brown is Trey Harris's comp for me. Didn't run a lot of routes, a lot of posts, a lot of go, a lot of hitch or comeback, but that was about it. Ran a couple slants here and there. But man, he's explosive as hell. He got injured this year. He played like 5 games, still almost had 1,000 yards. If he would have played the entire season, he probably has over 1,500 yards. I believe in him. I think he's, like I said, I mentioned it earlier. I think he should have been a first round pick. Trey Harris is one of my favorite guys in this class. I'm going to take him, and we're going to move on. I know I'm leaving Emeka Mbuka out to dry. For me, he's a high floor guy. And I like high floor guys. He's probably going to go in the second round for sure. It's tough for me to take a high floor guy in this range. It just is. We took Tyler Warren in the first for the Jaguars. I think we probably have to go defense here. I think if we were going to go D-line, I'd probably go Darius Alexander. I think this is probably his range. I think Darius Alexander, another guy like this is like, we're gonna take the guys that I think should be first rounders. Darius Alexander to me is a first rounder. If we went safety or corner, really, I mean they could use help on either. I wouldn't value them as much. I think Maxwell Harrison, we're gonna start to get into that conversation here soon. I'm not ready for it yet, but I mean here soon. Ultimately, I'm just gonna take one of the best players on the board for me, and we're gonna do that. Where is he? Where are you, Darius Alexander? Take a pause here. Take a drink out of my very full cup. That might have been the gayest way you could possibly drink a bourbon, but I did it. I don't mean gay as in likes men. I'm totally fine with that. I mean gay as in fucking gay, you know? All right, Raiders. Like, the people that don't get that joke, I mean, like, that's fine. I might lose subscribers on that joke. That's fine, but hopefully I gain a couple. If you're still here, it might just be me and my mom watching right now. I don't know. Raiders here. Running back, wide receiver, interior, corner. Where did we go in the first? We took the running back. So, look, I think I talked about this. If you went running back in the first, you could go wide receiver in the second. And, again, this is where I think a lot of guys are going to go off the board. Jaden Higgins, probably the next name for me off the board. Again, what do we have at wide receiver right now? Jacoby Myers? And that's it? Like, that's it. Jacoby Myers, and that's it. I can't think. I can't think of anybody else on that wide receiver roster. You could help out the cornerback. Like, this is about where I think corners are going to start going again. I'm taking the wide receiver. I'm taking Jaden Higgins. Again, another guy I think could sneak into the first round. I like him a lot. We got the Patriots here, another team that badly needs wide receiver. We went offensive line in the first round. Running back is going to be a conversation. Wide receiver is going to be a conversation. I mean, look, I can make a lot of arguments for defense. They spent a ton of money in free agency. They plugged a lot of holes in free agency. It's always a little nerve-wracking when you fill it solely through free agency, but that's what they did. We look at some of the wide receivers and running backs on the board. There's just some dynamic running backs that you could grab. This is Vrabel's. He ran his offense through Derrick Henry. I'm not telling you Caleb Johnson is Derrick Henry. I'm telling you Caleb Johnson, his play speed is way faster than his 40. I'm telling you he is a force physically. I'm telling you he has everything that you want from a workhorse 3-down running back in the NFL. And I'm telling you he is my second running back on my rankings. He's going to get drafted third in this mock, and I think he'll probably go farther down. I think there's probably guys that will get drafted ahead of him. This is a fit and a position of need. We're going to go with Caleb Johnson here. Again, one of the first draft profiles I did, I was blown away by how good he is. I think he's an absolute talent. I hate leaving wide receiver this wide open for a second-year quarterback who showed some real promise, and we just don't have anybody. But again, you could trade. We could even. I mean, look, we're not doing a third round, but there's going to be some names in the third that you could grab. I don't know. Like I could definitely understand the argument for wide receiver. For me, that's just not the move that we're going to make. Cowboys, Bears. God. Oh, I'm drunk. All right. I'm not. I'm really not that drunk, I swear. Look, if the first round went the way it went, I do think we could have a run. I think we could have a run on positions, okay? And running back would be the next position that there could be a run on. Absolutely, we have a guy that came from the Lions who ran the ball really well, very creative offense. I think they have plenty of firepower at wide receiver. Sorry, another burp, my bad. I like the running back that they paid way too much money to get. I don't love the running back that they paid way too much money to get. And I'm sorry, I'm bad at names. All right, I got to tighten up. I just had to look up DeAndre Swift because I couldn't fucking remember his name. And I knew about him. I knew who he is. The name is gone. Names are gone for me right now. It's bad when I'm sober, so it's getting real bad right now. So, look, got to tighten up. Got to bring it in. I believe in running back right now. I believe in running back. I again, would not have hated interior offensive line. I would not hate if they pushed it back another round. But, man, how do you again, there's a real world. There's a real world where Quinshon Judkins was their number 2 running back, and he's still on the board in the second round. And he'd be the 4th running back taken in this scenario, but there's a real world. Judkins is awesome. He would be more of the punch as opposed to the lightning. Like if you wanted to get the Gibbs version of a running back, you would go Henderson, but Henderson isn't Gibbs. Gibbs is special player. I mean, again, this running back class is loaded. Gibbs would be the number 2 running back in this class. That's insane to say. Yeah, I'm going to go Judkins, man. I think the Bears need him, need running back. It's important. Now we can have, we were paying way too much for a number 2 running back, but that's fine. That's okay. We are here with the Saints. Oh, I did not even realize that we were back-to-back, 39 and 41. That's my bad. I should have realized that. Saints could use wide receiver. They took a cornerback in the first round. They could absolutely use wide receiver. Do you take, I don't know. I mean, this is where Mbuka, like high floor type of guy, you could take him. I'd rather have a little bit more explosiveness. Like this is where Kyle Williams becomes a conversation for me. This is where Jalen Noel, similar type of guy, becomes a conversation for me. I don't know. I think Donovan Ezeruku, this is really where he should go. Let's help out the defense. Let's help out the defensive line, where the defensive line is getting really old really fast. Let's get Ezeruku. And again, I understand that's not how a lot of people view this. I'm definitely lower on him. I'm calling my shot that the NFL is just too high on him. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm probably wrong. I get it, but that's just not how I view it. Landon Jackson, it would have been like I would genuinely be between the two, but I took the guy who is valued higher in the eyes of the draft guys. So we're gonna go with that. We got the Bears here. They could again. We talked about it. They took Mike Green in the first round. We talked about how they could have used edge. We talked about how they could maybe go safety. They could go corner. How's the safety conversation? We grabbed a running back. We could go interior. I mean, there's so many different places we could go. We could go interior offensive line, interior defensive line. This is where the second round's so much fun, man. Because, I don't know. I could absolutely go TJ Sanders here. I could absolutely go Tate Ratledge, the guard out of where is he? Yeah, the guard out of Georgia right here. If they wanted to do that, I could see that happening. That doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I could definitely go Landon Jackson. This is a really fun part of the draft because there's so many names and I could see it going a lot of different ways. We grabbed the running back. I really, man, that's tough. That is tough. Hmm. They fixed the offensive line well enough to where I think, and I'm blank. You have 2 seconds, so why wouldn't you take one on an offense? I don't know. They fixed the offensive line well enough to where in interior offensive line is probably the deepest position in this class, as far as, well, running back's the deepest, but interior offensive line, you're gonna find starters in third round, fourth round, fifth round. So let's pass on that. Let's go ahead and grab a defensive lineman, because I do think, and again, we already took Mike Green, so let's go ahead and go interior, because I was thinking interior there too. I really considered interior. This is the strength of the draft. I think Bears fans would have to love this. I think it's interesting between these two options, and it's tough because it's a new regime change. Obviously, I know Ben Johnson and what his I know what Ben Johnson's style would be offensively. It's a little harder for me to guess what the defensive style would be. So I'm going to go TJ Sanders, classic three tech. So TJ Sanders is your classic three tech, explosive defensive tackle that should be in this range. Tyleik Williamson is more of your two gapping, big body, just like very little pass rush help, but he's going to help it. You know what? No. We're going to flip it. I'm going to go Tyleik Williamson. You play the fucking Lions twice a year. We got to help the run. We got to stop the run. And the Vikings and the Packers, like all those teams like to run the ball. If we have a guy in the middle that can stop the run, let's go with that. He's going to be more of your run stopping guy. So we're going to go with that. I like that a lot. Jets, where did we go in the first round? We went offensive line in the first round. Again, another team that's like, I want to build an identity for this team, man. I want to build an identity. And I wouldn't hate pairing Mbuka with Garrett Wilson. Let's just have an Ohio State wide receiver core. Not a terrible idea. Would Ohio State be the best wide receiver core in the NFL? Or is it LSU? LSU's good. LSU's got some dogs out there. They kind of both came out last year, but still. You'd have Garrett Wilson, Harrison, Olave. That's a hell of a three. OBJ isn't in the conversation anymore for LSU. You couldn't do that. I don't know. That's tough. That's such a side note. Let's take a drink and think about it. Ultimately, I think we got to make a decision for the Jets here. Jets with the 42nd overall pick. Is Milroe crazy here? Is Milroe insane? Is that insane? Are we getting like a little too weird? Obviously, you have Justin Fields. Is that just the team you want to be? Is that what Aaron Glenn wants to do? Do they just want to run the fucking ball and have an athletic fucking quarterback? And that's just who you are? Just saying. Milroe can't start this year. Milroe can't fucking throw. But he's an athlete, and he's got a rocket fucking arm. All he's got to do is just get better, right? Repetition. He's got to get better. Why did he not stay in school? I have no idea. He could have been a top 5 pick if he stayed in school and actually improved. All right. We get to a spot where interior TJ Sanders, we talked about him. He's interesting. If we wanted to go kind of standard, we could go wide receiver. They lost some pieces at safety. We could go safety. Kevin Winston Jr. is an interesting conversation for me. The Jets could go so many different fucking ways. I have no idea what the Jets would actually do. Look, I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm a Dolphins fan. And I'm going to set this right here. Okay, take this out of frame. Because I want to be respectful to the Jets. My respectfully least favorite team on the planet of any sport ever. And I don't know why. I don't know. It should be the Patriots. It should be the Bills. But I fucking hate the Jets. And I like the players. I like the people. Like I don't hate the humans that are a part of that organization. I hate the jersey, and I hate the, the fucking helmet. I don't know. Um, I, that shouldn't impact my decision making here. I know that. And there's so many different directions we could go. I could make a really good argument for a lot of these different positions. And Jets fans, shit on me. I deserve it because fuck you. Why do we hate each other? We've been the bottom barrel of the AFC East for the past 20 fucking years. I don't even remember when this guy played. I was 5 years old when he retired. I don't remember Dan Marino era. And if you're watching this video, you don't fucking remember the Joe Theismann era, or not Joe Theismann. Fuck, whoever your dude was. Doesn't matter. He's not there anymore. The Alabama quarterback. I'm getting a little lit. Apologies. Let's drink a little bit more to make up for it. I'm doing it. Joe Milton. Jalen Milroe. I'm doing it. Jalen Milroe. Look, here's the thought process. Fields is not your long-term answer by any means. But if you're going to go with Fields, why not have a backup who has a similar skill set? Why not just have two guys in there? And we need to get a third who's like super mobile in the pocket and just can throw the football. I think Garrett Wilson's probably going to be on his way out after his rookie contract if things go this way. I get that was wild. I get it. I know Jets fans probably hated that. I don't think that's as crazy as maybe it sounds. All right, 49ers got to go offensive line. I don't know how you go anywhere else. We took the corner with that just kind of fell in our lap. We could absolutely go defensive line, interior defense line especially. TJ Sanders is like such an option here. Such an option. Could absolutely go TJ Sanders. Could go Shamir Turner. Shamir Turner could play so many different roles in this on defense. I would not hate that at all. But man, like we got to help out the interior offensive line. We lost what's his face, and we drafted really good with Pooney last year. But man, I'm gonna go take Ratledge. I think he's going top 50. I really do. So we're gonna take Ratledge. We're gonna move on to the Cowboys, who drafted an offensive lineman. Look at that. Took O-line. And what did I say? I said, look, running back, wide receiver, those are going to be options in the second round. Those are going to be options down the line. So wide receiver, still a ton of options. I lean towards taking the more explosive wide receiver because you have CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb, even when he was coming out of college, was never he was never like the most explosive athlete. So if you take an Mbuka, who is not the most explosive athlete, to me, that's a hat on a hat. I don't need to do that. I'd rather take a Jalen Knoll. I'd rather take a Kyle Williams. That makes too much sense to me. And again, running back is a huge need. But they took Javonte Williams. They took Miles Sanders. They grabbed a couple running backs in free agency that feel like, okay, we can make it work at running back. We can figure it out at running back. The wide receiver 2 position, I don't know what we're doing there. I don't know. And yeah, we need edge. We need defensive line. We could use some help there. Landon Jackson still being on the board. That's a big option. I don't know how we pass up on the absolute explosiveness of a Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams is special explosiveness. A special athlete. He would pair so well with a CeeDee Lamb. That just makes too much sense to me. And to get him in the second round, that fits. And then now we have the Colts. Where did we go with the first round? We took the linebacker. I think we double up. And we do, again, also, by the way, I mentioned in the first round, rinse and repeat in the second round. A team in the late second would absolutely trade up ahead of some of these teams that need defensive line help, especially in a world where, for me, Landon Jackson is a tier above the rest of these guys. I get the TJ Sanders conversation, but Landon Jackson, he was borderline first round, and I've mentioned him so many times. I really like him a lot. I think he can easily go top 30, top 40. So at 45, that's too good of value. And we took Jalen Walker in the first. We're really just beefing up that front seven. I like that. Let's help out a position group. Let's help out the defense in this run go around. And I know quarterback's a question mark. I know wide receiver really isn't a question mark for me. Like, Alec Pierce is good. Pittman is good. We have pieces at the wide receiver position I like a whole lot. Downs is good. It's just not, I mean, yeah, I get it. And we could go wide receiver, or we could go tight end. This is saying tight end is a bigger need. We're going to go Landon Jackson, but just to look at tight end, just to be aware. Aroro is going at some point in the second round. Mason Taylor will be a question mark in the second round. Gunnar Helm is going to be a question mark in the second. Like, he could go in the second round for my mock. Terrence Ferguson, maybe. But this is like your big slot. This is an athlete. He's your big slot type of guy. He could absolutely go here. I understand the Colts feel it. I mean, they're saying their number one need is tight end. I guess you could, interior offense line's a need for half the league, over half the league. But we're gonna improve the front seven. We're gonna improve the front seven with a team that I feel like could use the help. And we're going to go ahead and take Landon Jackson. I am burping a lot, and I'm trying to keep them not on the mic, but I am burping a lot. That'll help. All right. Falcons. They took Shamir Stewart, all upside, first-round pick, because that's what they love to do. They take upside guys nonstop every fucking year. Jesus. All right, wide receiver. Where do they want to go? Where do we want to go with this? All right, guys, I'm not going to lie. I cheated a little bit. I went on PFF. I looked at what they did in free agency. I went and looked at their roster. I had to. Drinking too much, and I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. So I'm going to cut there. I had to go back and look, and I think center is probably where we want to go. Let's improve the center position. Interior offensive line spot. And look, Jarrett Wilson's here. Why not just take him? And there's other centers, but this is like the best center in the class, like the best true center in the class. And he's young. He only played a season, like a full season at Georgia, and he's a little bit raw, but like the upside's there. I think you're improving that offensive line immediately. And the real question is he going to be able to do the technical stuff? Is he going to be able to do is he going to be able to call the protections and all that? And then with, obviously, you have a young quarterback under center who maybe he's not the best option as far as taking that responsibility on when you have to think about all these other things. That's a question mark. That would be the only thing that would maybe deter me from making this pick. But I'm just gonna take the best center. I'm gonna take the best center on the board. Nunzel, whatever the fuck that dude's name is, terrible PFF grade, terrible. And you know that's all that matters. Obviously, you know that. But no, for real, I have some serious. I don't know. I think that was the biggest need when I looked at it. Obviously, we could have gone front seven. We could have added a wide receiver too. There was definitely options there for the Falcons. But I'm gonna take the center. I think that makes the most sense to me. Arizona Cardinals. Where did we go in the first round? We took Nick Scorton. We took an interior defensive end. The one thing that we have not done, and the one thing we're gonna break the cherry here, corners did not go in the second round. This is early. This is a lot. There's a lot of names that in the second round for corners. I think this is real. I do. I like the cornerback class. I think there's some depth here from, Dorian Strong to Trey Amos. I like a lot of these names. there's different values in different spots. I could absolutely see any one of these teams that I went in different directions, but I could absolutely see cornerback being a spot, and we're actually going to have a run on corner. We're going to have a little bit of a run on corner. I'm going to have Maxwell Harrison be the first guy here. I just love his explosiveness. He's just speed. He's explosive, all around great player. Now, does he have the play strength? I don't know. That's going to be the big question mark for him. But you watch him play, and he's small. He is small. Like, his helmet is bigger than his body. It's crazy. But he's fun to watch. He is explosive as hell. He's got fairly good ball skills. I like him a lot, especially in this range. This feels like just such a value. I think the Falcons would look at the way the board is falling and be like, oh man, we're going to get our guy. And then the Dolphins here, they went interior defensive line with the first pick. I think interior offensive line it's just such a huge need. I want to go corner. Because like we need help at corner too. We Dolphins fans, sorry, but interior offensive line such a need. Such a huge red flag if we're not able to get a guy. Jonah Solvinia has some movement skills. I think he's a guard in the NFL, but if he can be a starter from day one, we need corner. And I want to go corner for the Dolphins, but interior offensive line we got to protect Tua. So let's go ahead and do that. Bengals here, where did they go? First round, we took edge. Again, another team have to go offensive line, have to think about offensive line here. And it's going to start to get sparse here. I think Donovan Jackson is ultimately a guard in the NFL. I'm thinking about him. Just high floor guy. I think he's a starter. I don't know if he's going to be a great start in the NFL. I don't know if he doesn't have premium upside. I could definitely see him falling later in this draft. Charles Grant is a great tackle, but I don't know if I love him at guard. Cameron Williams, I like a good bit. SRA is a guy that I would love at tackle, but I want to get interior. I'm pretty okay. I'm okay with Mims, who we got last year, and then we have the dude from the Ravens, excuse me. So our tackles are okay. We have to have an interior guy. We have to. What did I say? We took edge. I mean, look, I want to add defense. Like, we could use corner, we could use so many different spots, but man, I don't know how you pass up. I don't know how you pass up on just a solid plug and play starter. And I believe this guy can be a plug and play starter. So that's what we're going to do with the Bengals. Moving on, we're at the 50th pick. We have the Seahawks. They have the 50th and the 52nd pick. So there's some conversations to be had here. There's definitely some interesting conversations to be had. Man, this is tough. All right, so we have to address the interior offensive line. I think you have to do that for a team that the offensive line's been an issue for years for this team. Years. So where do we want to go here? Oh, yeah. So, and again, it's gotten a little sparse. It's gotten tough. Again, I think our tackles are okay. I mean, we have Cross. We could make him a pure tackle, but I think we probably need more help in the interior. That makes Cameron Williams an interesting spot. Wyatt Milliam is an interesting spot. Look, we have 2 picks right back to back. I think corner is really important for us. Siobhan Rivell is a great name. Look, Witherspoon's amazing. Love Witherspoon. One of the best corners in the league, in my opinion. Your next corner, I'm blanking on his name, but he's a good player. And then your cornerback 3 is a weak length for me. Siobhan Rivell is definitely a name. Thomas out of Florida State is definitely a name. Dorian Porter is a former wide receiver turned corner that I mocked to this Seahawks a while back in a 7-round mock that did not go well according to the fans, so we're not going to do that again. Man, it's interesting. It's crazy the amount of offensive linemen that just went. And again, I think interior offensive line in the second round, that's going to be a hot commodity. There's a lot of good ones. I still think there's some names, and I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go corner first. I think we're going to address the defense. We got Harmon. We could definitely address an edge, but who do we want to grab at edge? There's nobody there's nobody here that I really want to do at edge. And we could absolutely go wide receiver. Like, I like these guys. I think JT's good. Jack Sawyer's good. Shamir Turner's a name that I really like that's going to go off the board really, really soon. But TJ Sanders going to go off the board really, really soon. But we already drafted Harmon, excuse me. So we don't need to do that. Let's go corner. I think we got to go corner here. Also, like, to be perfectly honest, I think Ravel is one of the best corners. Like, he's one of the best players on the board. So we're going to draft him. We'll talk about the Seahawks again in a second. Probably going to go interior there. Broncos took a wide receiver in the first round. Need a running back. We're going to go running back in the second. This played out almost perfect for the Broncos. I like Dylan Sampson more than Trayvon Henderson. I'm going to take Trayvon Henderson because I think he fits the Broncos better. I think we have a good bit. I like Estime for the from Notre Dame last year. Good little player. Henderson has that home run hitting speed, and I think he fits what the Broncos would be doing a little bit better. So we're going to go with that. We're going to go running back there. Go back to the Seahawks here. We're going to take an interior offensive lineman. I am going to go with, this is weird. It's weird because these are true tackles. These are all true tackles, and these guys are going to go off the board here really, really soon. But I need a guy that I can move to guard, and I think Wyatt Mulliam is a guy that I can move to guard. Charles Grant is probably my next tackle off this board. Essere I really like for potential. Ozzy Trapola is a guy who I could easily see going in like the 3rd to 4th round range. Look, there's some good offensive linemen here. Like, there's going to be a drop-off here soon. But that drop-off hasn't happened at 52 overall. We're going to take the guard. And if we take the guard, we took interior offensive line, interior defensive line, and a corner in the first 3 picks. I think you really helped out. You didn't get sexy picks. You didn't get guys that I think fans are going to be, like, jumping with joy for. But you got really good players, football players. And I think there's some value there. All right, we took the linebacker with the 19th overall pick. Now we're at 53 overall. We go edge. We go DB. Safety, I think, is the move here. Kevin Winston Jr. still on the board. He's the best safety on this board. He absolutely should not go much farther. If we go interior, like, again, TJ Sanders, another guy. Like, I don't see him falling much farther. He should be off the board by now. Like the classic 3-tech type of guy, but I think we're going to just have to go safety. Anton Winfield Jr. is a dog, but I don't know how you pass up on a Kevin Winston Jr. here to be your second safety. Let's go with that. See the Packers here. What do? We grab the wide receiver in the first round, so we have a little bit of variety here. We go edge, we go corner. There's been a lot of conversation about what's his face, their number 1 corner. He was a first round pick. I'm blanking on him. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on him. I'm going to go ahead and take my next corner off the board in Thomas. I think it's a huge need for him. I know edge is a need, but there's just not there's not any names that I love here. So we're going to go with that. We're going to move on to the Chargers here. Took Walter Nolan in the first round. Absolutely need a wide receiver. Looking at wide receiver, which is definitely the biggest need. Obviously, we got interior defensive line earlier. Ayagmore is an interesting conversation, but he's the outside. Maybe he could just be a big slot. I feel like Ladd McConkey, he's your interior. He's going to be your target hog. He's going to be the guy. You have Quentin Johnson, who can do a lot of different things. Obviously, I think he's going to get better, but he's definitely not going to live up to that first-round potential. And then Mike Williams is there, but I'm just not factoring him in. I'm not factoring him in. What about tight end? Oh yeah, dude, Aurora. Big slot. Just a big slot. He's just the combination of him and Ladd McConkey, the things that you could do with that. I like that. I understand that maybe this isn't the perfect fit as far as, like, the Chargers are going to want a guy that can block a little bit better, so maybe that's not the perfect fit. Maybe that might not be the perfect fit. Mason Taylor might even be a better overall fit for them. But, man, I don't know if I can pass on Arroyo. Arroyo? It's tough. That's a tough spot. D-line, we already took Walter Nolan, so we don't need to grab TJ Sanders, who I really like here. We could definitely grab a corner if we wanted to. We could take the edge in a JT or something like that, and maybe go that route with it. And running back is definitely a conversation for me. Definitely in the conversation for me. Like Dylan Sampson, Cam Scatterbo, DJ Giddens, all these guys are really deserve to be in this range, but we don't have too many picks left. We got 9 picks left. It's going to be tough to get all of those guys drafted. It's just probably not going to happen. They're not all going to go in the first round or second round. Excuse me. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this pick a whole lot. I think I'm going to go explosiveness. Look, Mbuka is my top wide receiver on this board. Mbuka is my top wide receiver on this board. And look, I told you I didn't see him as a first round guy. I don't see him as falling this far. I understand that this is a little bit far for me, but this is the thought process. We have a guy in the middle of the field that can play the slot and do a lot of different things. We have that. We have a guy on the outside that can play your classic X. Do we have a guy that's just a burner, like explosive threat? Jalen Noel is the most explosive guy on the field. Jalen Noel is the most explosive player left in this draft class as far as wide receiver position goes. He can do it all. His hands are questionable. I have questions here. This is where I think he should go. This is the range. Late second. I like this. I'll be honest. A.M. Manor, I probably like a little bit more than Noel ultimately. But positional value, and again, I thought about tight end. I thought about tight end, but tight end is kind of the same conversation where Arroyo, whatever the fuck, Elijah, I guess, out of Miami, he's a big slot. He's a pass-catching weapon, and I really like him. I'm going to try and get him drafted before, he should be a second-round pick. He should. But I look at the Chargers, I look at Harbaugh, they want a guy who can block a little bit. I think they want a more well-rounded tight end. I don't think that's him. I don't. So let's go ahead and get the more explosive guy. Let's get Jalen Noel. He could go top 50. He absolutely could. So I don't hate that. Looking at the Bills as we get through the end of this class. Oh, we have two picks for the Bills. And we already have Luther Burden on the dock. Look, I'm just going to tell you right now, corner. And I mentioned corner in the first round and told you there wasn't a good range for it. It wasn't a solid spot for corner. We're going to take corner here. We're going to take my top corner. Darian Porter's probably my top corner. And I struggle with this because these guys are all kind of in a clump. Benjamin Morris has the hip issues. Trey Amos has some talent, but I just think the upside of Darian Porter's real. I do, and he hasn't played the position a whole lot. He's a former wide receiver turned corner, but I could just see him starting. I could see him being a real difference maker there. We got Mason Graham in the first round for the Panthers. And I don't know what happened here that made the Panthers. They traded with LA, I guess. Okay. This is where I like Mbuka. This is about it. And again, I don't hate their situation, but if they could be in a really bad spot next year, I guess I would say. You look at their wide receiver room, there's not any superstars. There's not any guys that we really believe in. You have a guy who was drafted early in the second last year who I like, but I don't love, and I'm not in love. I'm not guaranteeing that he's your dude. And if he doesn't take a big step forward this year, I'm going to have questions. So, yeah. I'm going to take Mbuka. Finally, off the board. We got him off the board. I am shocked that he fell this far. That was absolutely not my intent, but that's just how it kind of played out. We took the guard in the first round for the Texans. We probably need another wide receiver. I mean, obviously, it's tough to believe in Tank Dell. It is. It's tough to believe in that type of guy. Now, just looking at where we're at, and look, they have Joe Mixon. They could absolutely go running back. I would imagine they would probably go running back a little bit later. Would they take Dylan Sampson here? Maybe. I don't think so. Maybe. Probably gonna lean away from that. Let's go ahead. We grab the offensive lineman. If you wanted to go offensive line again, we could absolutely go SRA and just believe in the upside there. But I do think we need to add another weapon for Stroud, and wide receiver definitely going to be a conversation here. Again, A.M. Manor is a guy that I really like. We already have a guy that can play that X receiver. We have a true X. I'm gonna take the explosive, smaller slot guy out of Miami, and I like Jack Beck. I like Jack Beck a lot. Well, yeah, look, this is the Texans. They're coming from that Patriots mindset. They're gonna love this Miami kid. He has that Wes Welker feel to him. He has that style of guy. Like, that's kind of who he is. So we're gonna go there with him. Looking at the Ravens, the Dirty Birds, we grabbed a safety in the first round, which was maybe a little bit of a logic pick, but I don't know. I don't hate it. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna tell you right now. JT Talamau. No. Shamir Turner. He can play all around the defensive line. He can play edge. He can play interior defensive line. I think he fits what the Ravens like to do. They like to do a lot of different things on the front seven. They like to confuse you. They like to have a little bit of fun with it. Shamir Turner fits that for me, so I'm going to take Shamir Turner here. And then the Lions, who do we take in the first round? We took Mikael Williams. I would not hate going corner here. Obviously, they drafted the first rounder out of Alabama, who just hasn't. I mean, I think he struggled a little bit. You could take Benjamin Morrison. They can, again, another team they can afford to risk the injury. There's an injury risk there. I get it. They kind of got risky high floor with Williams. We're getting risky high floor with Benjamin Morrison. To me, like, he had 2 hip injuries. He had a hip injury in high school, then he had a hip injury last year, and that's going to scare teams. But if he passes the medicals, he's easily a second-round pick. So we're going to take Morrison. We're getting near the end. Washington, where did we go? We took the guard in the first round. I got to take a difference maker running back. I really, let's add a piece to this offense. Yeah, I think you have to, right? You have to add a piece to this offense. Dylan Sampson, just a special running back for me. And I'm passing on Cam Scatterbo again. I hate doing it, but he's special. He is. We took Luther Burden. We took Dorian Porter. Now we're in the second round. I think this is T.J. Sanders. I think we got to add another piece. Attacking 3-tech is exactly the type of guy that the Bills like. That's who this guy is. Yeah, I think that's the move. We're going to go T.J. Sanders there. The Chiefs, they were able to land Josh Simmons in the first round. Where would they go in the second? I definitely think they would lean interior. I definitely think that the Chiefs are a great team because of Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but man, I definitely think there's some needs. There's definitely some needs. Let's go with the future. Let's take Arroyo. This is a future help at tight end. Obviously, Travis Kelce took a step back last year. This just makes too much. And Arroyo, he should be a top 50 guy, but not everybody can be a top 50 guy. So he fell. He fell in the draft. Chiefs, I think, again, are just super happy that you had a guy that fell. And you could go defensive line, you could go linebacker, but you could go corner. You could go a lot of different spots with it. I just think, man, this dude, I cannot believe he fell. These guys, to me, are third-round guys. These guys are third-round guys. Jordan, Ivory, Princely, whatever the fuck his last name, Braden Swinson, Josiah Stewart, whatever the fuck. God, I can't read. I can't even talk. These are all these just aren't the guys that I would value here. I like the Ohio State kids, and I'm kind of surprised that I let both of them fall this far. But again, it's kind of it's interesting. There's only so many names, and there's so many guys that I still like. I mean, the beginning of the fourth round the beginning of the third round is going to be really interesting, especially if it plays out this way. But I'm going to go tight end. I'm going to get the Miami kid. I think he has to go in the second round. I think that just the value there is unreal. And then what do you give the team that has everything? They drafted a backup tight end in the first. Man, I don't know. They didn't have great luck with the last Stanford wide receiver they drafted in the second round, so it's tough for me to go A.O. Manor. And again, look, I know this feels like he's fallen, but like this is about the range I see A.O. Manor. He is. This is. I don't know. I no idea. No idea where we go. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna take a tackle, or we're gonna take. You can see it going so many different ways. You can see it's going so many different ways. They kind of need help in the interior. I'm gonna go Charles Grant. I just think he's a guy that I really like. Well, I don't know. Look at corner. Is there a corner I don't feel like should have fallen? Trey Amos. I like him a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if they need corner that bad. Darius Knight Jr. fell for me. I don't know. Man, it's tough. It's so tough. Because so honestly, there's just so many names. There's so many names that I like. I just don't think should be third round picks. There's so many guys that I feel like should have gone in the second round, and you just can't pick them all. I mean, you can only pick one right now. That's crazy. One? Fuck. All right. Yeah, I'm just. Let's draft a swing tackle. Ozzy Trepolo, swing tackle. We didn't go out. I just think he's got upside. This was a fun exercise. This is a small channel, obviously. I've grown a lot during the draft process here, and I'm hoping to grow more. If this video does well, I'll do more first, second, third, fourth. I'll do as many mocks as you want. I'll do it without drinking. I don't need a drink just to do a mock draft. I don't mind doing this all damn day. But it's got to do well. It's got to do well. My 7-round mocks have done pretty well for at least comparatively for my channel, and I'm really excited about that. I just want to get out there, man. I want to grow this channel. I want to talk draft stuff. I really do put in the work. I really do put the time in. I have a passion for it, and I've had this channel for a while, and it's been a lot of different things at different times, but I'm diving into just being an NFL draft channel that's going to focus on the NFL draft 24/7, but during the season, focus on the NFL and the players that are doing well, and kind of dive into these young guys that are learning to grow and really putting a focus on team building. I think I have a lot of ideas for videos about how to build a team and the concepts that need to be brought into this, because it's something that isn't talked about enough, but should be, because there's so many patterns that goes around with the NFL, and I just making sure I'm good. And I do believe that those patterns could be improved, I guess I would say. I think there could be conversations around what's going on with certain teams that could be improved based on how we view the process. All right. Now, I'm big on process. I'm big on the draft, obviously. I'm a big draft channel, but I'm big on process more than anything, and mindset and thought process behind different picks and how to build a team. Team building is important to me. But okay. Let me get off my soapbox. I really, really appreciate you guys watching. If you're watching right now, give me the thumbs up. Give me the if you made it this far into this channel, dude, that means so much to me. Leave me a comment, DM me. I don't know how, but I guess you can find me on Twitter or wherever else, and give me you want me to do a draft profile. If you made it to this point, give me the timestamp and tell me who you want me to do. That will be the next video I record. Seriously, like I could not appreciate it more if you guys actually made it this far. 2-round mock was wild. Had a good time. I'm a little bit tipsy, but I hope I made a good bit of sense. Hopefully, let me know in the comments what you thought, and I'm going to be done. All right, thank you so much for watching. Peace.